Four nations is now down to just two as Canada looks for revenge against Team USA. Hey everyone, welcome into Off the Post. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Steve Simmons, Bruce Garrioch, and Patrick Johnston. And guys, what a tournament it has been so far, and we will get the championship game that I think we all expected, Canada versus Team USA on Thursday. Bruce, it was one of the most incredible starts we've ever seen to an international best-on-best game on Saturday. What did we learn from that one that you'll take into the rematch?
Well, I think we learned that the United States is bound and determined to show that they are now the hockey nation in the world. And they are willing to do that in any way, shape, or form. Matthew Tkachuk said it after the game that they felt they were going into a hostile environment, and to set the tone, they had to start with hostile beginning. And 3 fights in 9 seconds. I don't know in the big scheme of things if it really had that much of an effect on the game. I think what had an effect on the game was the way the Americans played defensively and how good a job they did against Canada. But I can tell you, I don't know why it's taken this long for the National Hockey League to have best-on-best hockey, because I can tell you, I wouldn't want to be the person who has to cover Nashville going into Vancouver on a Tuesday night as the next game you cover. You know what I mean? Like I think there's going to be a little bit of lunch bag letdown after this tournament. But I think we've learned that Canada has now faced some adversity, and usually when they face some adversity, guys, they've won the next game.
You know, what I thought in the last game is Canada with Cale Makar and Canada without Cale Makar are really two different hockey teams. If you have Cale Makar, who to me is 1-2 the best defenseman in the world, it changes the way you play, especially because I think 4, 5, and 6, Canada's defense isn't as strong as the U.S. is at 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah. And so what you had was a really tight game and very little space. And very little movement in the middle of the ice or opening it all in the middle of the ice. So you really had to take advantage when there was open ice. And there wasn't much. And the Canadians weren't sure what to do or how to approach it. And so they know now this is how the game is going to be. They know now that Jacob Slavin and Brock Faber is a great shutdown pair. And they're going to probably, one of their two big guys are going to be facing those guys all the time. And so this is I expect for a really, really tight hockey game with not much space and not much room. But when you put in a superb defenseman and you take out an average one, it changes the Canadian team. And especially now, if Charlie McAvoy is hurt for the Americans and he can't play, that changes their defense slightly as well. But I see this as a really close match, as the first game was. And I think the Canadian players realize that they're going to have to learn how to play in really tight spaces.
For all the depth the Americans have, they do not have the X factor that Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon bring to the table. But they do have an X factor in goal. And it was such a reminder on Saturday. I mean, I see this guy all the time. But what Connor Hellebuyck looks like when he is in control. And obviously the defensive game in front of him by the Americans was outstanding, but what little was given away, other than the McDavid goal, and I don't think anybody was stopping that, Hellebuyck was there. And that is the thing that could settle all of this in the end. If there are defensive breakdowns, somehow by the Americans, they have the best goalie in the game. And goalies matter a lot at this time in this kind of game.
You go back to May or June, or whenever the playoffs were last year. I remember, his name now escapes me, Colorado captain.
MacKinnon.
Nathan MacKinnon, thank you very much. Nathan MacKinnon absolutely exploiting Hellebuyck in the playoffs. And the Colorado Avalanche absolutely exploiting. And I think you have to look and see what happened there and why, and how did it happen, and were they putting bodies in front of them? Were they taking his vision away? Were they going side to side? Like, what is it that you're going to have to do to be successful? Because you know that the better goalie is playing for the United States. I mean, I think that's the obvious thing going in. It's now a question of, is he going to be the difference maker in this area? Or can the Canadian forwards and Coach John Cooper and whoever else is involved put put in place ways in which to make Hellebuck vulnerable, because we've seen him vulnerable in the past.
Well, that is a perfect segue into the goaltending on the Canadian side, Steve. And Jordan Binnington at times has looked like the Stanley Cup winning goalie for the St. Louis Blues, and at other times he's looked like the current St. Louis Blues goaltender, which is a team not currently in a playoff spot. How big of a concern do you think his potential play could be heading into Thursday's rematch?
Well, I really hope this doesn't come into a Jordan Binnington, vote of some kind, because this isn't his fault. A year ago we knew Canada had a problem in goal. Probably 2 years ago we knew Canada had a problem in goal. And the management group of this team decided that Jordan Binnington was going to be their starter in game 1, and then he was going to be their starter in game 2, and then 3, and now into 4. That's the decision management made. Is he better than Connor Hellebuck? Absolutely not. Will he ever be better than? Probably not. What they need him to do is not let in easy ones, which he tends to do almost every game he plays. He lets one in. If you let more than one in, you got a problem. And so I just don't like the fact that Canada will turn into a Jordan Binnington blame fest if they lose this game, because that's what we do. But I don't think you can blame someone if they're not good enough.
Look, he's let in some softies. I think, one of the things we talked about ad nauseum going into this tournament is Canada's goaltending. I had a chance on Saturday in Montreal to talk to a pretty good goaltender who would probably be in the net right now and would love this stage in Carey Price. And, these are the moments in his career that he lived for. I think that Binnington has to kind of try and embrace the opportunity he's got on Thursday night. He almost has an opportunity to reestablish himself with a strong effort as one of the top goalies in the National Hockey League again. And that might be for one night only, but it would be a pretty good stage to do that. The issue, as you said, Steve, is he allows those softies, and he allowed a couple of softies on Saturday night.
I just go back to the thing Steve said. How do they beat Connor Hellebuck? Jordan Binnington exists. We know what he's going to be. Canada needs to score more than one goal. It's pretty simple. The goalie won't be the story if they score more than one goal. It's that simple to me.
Here's the thing, that bigger picture that, probably we should have looked at, and we have looked at on a number of occasions. Carey Price was that goalie who was superb in Sochi in 2014. And in 2010, there was Luongo. And in 2002, it was Brodeur. And if you go back, we're talking Hall of Fame goalie and Hall of Fame goalie and Hall of Fame goalie. And Carey Price will be in the Hall of Fame. Jordan Binnington will not be in the Hall of Fame. No. So let's not pretend he's one of those. Yeah. Like, he can think all he wants to try and be Carey Price. I can think all I want. I want to be Hemingway. It ain't happening.
Still time, Steve. Come on.
What I'm saying is that I think Patrick's correct. They need 3 goals. Yeah. They need 3 goals, and then let's see what happens. And I really think that if suddenly one of the Canucks is hurting, and suddenly possibly Charlie McAvoy is hurting, and suddenly who knows. Yeah. Chip away at a roster, of guys who really come to play, and it changes everything. I think I can't wait. It's now. Well, we're not supposed to say what it is, but the game's Thursday night. I wish it was happening right now. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I have loved this tournament.
The thing that's excited me in all this has got me excited again about the Olympics, right? And just thinking of all those questions, who's going to be in the roster? Who really are the best 6 defensemen? Who is the best combination? Where do you play Sidney Crosby? Things like that. All these questions, we get to actually talk about these things again. And that's been, I think, one of the secret successes of this tournament. It's got us, as Bruce said off the top, it's got us loving best on best again. And it's been too long since we've had this. But I'm excited to have it again next year, and I'm excited to have it on Thursday night.
So with the U.S. on their roster, who's had the biggest win in their career? I guess that's the guys who've won the Cup, maybe Jack Eichel and those kind of guys who've won the Cup.
Matthew Tkachuk.
Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah.
But Canada's sitting there with Sidney Crosby and all those wins, and Brad Marchand and all those wins, and Drew Doughty and all those wins. I think a lot of that experience matters in a game like this. I think they've been in that position. They have to win tonight. When you haven't been in that position, when you're Austin Matthews, when you're, the guys from Winnipeg, Kyle Connor, whoever you want to look at, when you're Jack Hughes and you haven't been in that position, I think it's a different kind of world. And look at the play Crosby made, the last second of, against Finland. He takes a hit, gets knocked to the ice, back up, scores the goal. Yeah. Like, how many guys are doing that?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's your hope. Jordan Binnington's been here before in a Game 7 on the road. Maybe he can pull out some magic once again. Yeah, absolutely. Prediction time. Patrick, we'll start with you. Is this going to be the 96 World Cup of Hockey all over again, or is Canada going to keep their streak of beating the Americans when it counts?
Oh, I hate these. I hate making predictions. I don't know. I've been impressed by the Americans. I think I'm going to not be a homer. I'm going 3-2 USA.
Bruce?
Look, I think the Americans are playing for something higher. I think they're playing in the memory of Johnny Gaudreau. I think that they are they have this whole thing, and I saw it firsthand last week in Montreal, of how their family, they brought in guys like Mike Eruzione and Rob McClanahan and Mike Modano to talk about these are the American hockey players who paved the way for this generation. This generation has something to prove. I will take the Americans as well in a 3-2 victory. I just think that they've got the better goaltender, and in the end, that will likely be the difference.
I'm going to go the old football analogy. It's awfully tough to beat the same team twice in a season. And here's a short tournament, and it's awfully tough to beat the same team twice in a tournament. In Vancouver in 2010, the U.S. beat, Canada in the round robin, and Canada came back and won the gold medal. And if Cale Makar is playing and John Cooper is coaching, then I'm going to wave my flag for the moment and stick with the guys who've been there before.
All right, good choice there. I'll go a little bit off the board. I'll say Canada and maybe a bit of a higher scoring game. Let's go 5-2 Canada. Ooh. Maybe we see playoff Connor Hellebuyck on Thursday. I think a lot of people will be rooting for that. What do people in Winnipeg feel? Are they rooting against Connor Hellebuyck? That's going to be interesting to see what happens. But as always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Bruce Garrioch, Patrick Johnston, Steve Simmons, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.